What's one confession that's been weighing on you that you'd only share anonymously? Story 1. My career right now is blackmailing men on social media. For starters, I am a male college student. My college is entirely online, which means I spend countless hours behind a screen rather than attending a physical campus. I started a little over a year ago. At the time, I was desperate for cash, so desperate that I couldn't afford to wait. There was no time for job applications, interviews, or waiting weeks for a paycheck to come through. I needed money that day. That's when a dark idea crossed my mind, and I acted on it. I created a Facebook account using the identity of a girl I went to high school with. I let the profile sit for a few days, posting casually and gradually uploading pictures to make it look authentic. Then I began adding people from the local area, avoiding anyone who actually knew her well but targeting those who might recognize her name or face without being connected to her real account. After that, I expanded to adding more random people from the region. The goal was to make the profile look as genuine as possible. The more believable, the better. I use a specific method to find my targets. I focus on people selling items in the marketplace, as it felt like the most organic place to connect on Facebook. The advantage of this strategy is that I could set my profile to private, so no one would realize I was a new user, yet it wouldn't seem suspicious. Marketplace isn't for making friends, it's just for buying and selling, which means anyone can interact with anyone. The men I targeted were usually married with kids and appeared to be reasonably successful. The approach was straightforward. I'd message them, pretending to be a broke high school girl, asking for a discount. Most of the time they'd decline, so I'd shift gears and offer favors in exchange for a lower price. I'd then test the waters further by revealing that I was a minor and that nobody could know. If that didn't scare them off, it was game over. They were trapped. The final step was collecting all the intel. I made sure to gather undeniable evidence, videos of me scrolling through our messages slowly, clicking on their profile, and browsing it so they couldn't block me later and hide it. I'd get them to text me, ensuring I had their phone number on file. I'd ask for pictures, voice clips, and videos, anything they'd send. I'd even suggest meeting in a public place, but claim I got too nervous at the last minute, giving me their vehicle description and license plate number. The mall worked perfectly for this. I'd ask them to park in a specific area, get their car details, and then tell them to meet me inside. Men are creatures driven by their desires. Most of the time, all of this would be accomplished in under 24 hours. The next step was the strike. I'd compile all the evidence and send it to them, threatening to share it with their entire friend list and the authorities if they didn't give me $1,000 within 2 hours. Their only real choice was to comply. I wasn't afraid to follow through with my threats. After all, these men were predators preying on young women, and I had plenty of evidence to expose them. But I wasn't entirely heartless. If needed, I'd allow them to negotiate a lower amount. This method has consistently brought me around $2,000 a month for the past 13 to 14 months, with no fail. Am I proud of this? Yes and no. Yes, because now these predators are always going to be on their toes when trying anything online, but no, because they are still walking free. I held up my end of the bargain and didn't report any of them. Oh well, no regrets. Before we continue, do us a quick favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. I guess you could call me a normal family man. I'm in my late 30s. I've been married for 15 years, and I have a 14-year-old girl and an 8-year-old son. Just a normal family. My wife and I have had a normal, intimate life for pretty much the majority of our marriage. About a year ago, I started taking explicit pictures of my wife. It took a lot of convincing to get her to go along with it, but I kept telling her that I would use them for me when she's not around or away for work. That's how it started, but a number of months ago, what I started to do was to share them with random guys that I find online. I sometimes find myself fantasizing, soloing off on the things random guys say they'd like to do with my wife. Is this wrong? Obviously. It's a violation of our trust, but I can't stop. I've tried, but I really can't. So I decided it was just going to be one of those things I do, something I'd have to accept as a little messed up. But lately, I've been having some even worse ideas. I've started to think about sharing pictures of my kitty to random guys online. I've been thinking about this for a number of weeks. When I'm charged, this is such a hot thought for me, But every other time I feel so ashamed that I want to do this. I really need help. I don't want to go down this path, but I know that if I don't get help, I probably will, and that scares me. I'm afraid this could spiral into something even worse. I mean, I've always said I'd never touch her, but I also once said I'd never share those pictures of my wife with anyone, and I broke that promise too. So that's my confession. If anyone out there has any idea what could help me, I'm all ears. I can't talk to my wife about this for obvious reasons, and I feel anyone I talk to will judge me. I'd like to seek professional help, but that really scares me because there's always the possibility that I could lose my kids, and I don't want that. I don't know what to do. Story 3. Now I have won my husband back. I am leaving him. I have secured an apartment for my baby and me, and I have put everything in order and prepared for custody, shared or otherwise. I have divided the money and transferred my share to a third account, and it will stay there until the divorce proceedings and the dividing of the assets. I found out that my husband was having an affair while I was postpartum. I thought that I would die because I love him, and it felt like my heart was broken into million pieces. I knew that it was over, but my curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to know why. What was it she had that I didn't? Did he love her? I started reading his texts, and everything was there. He felt like he was alive again. He was happy and excited. She's single and childless, so she had all the time in the world to make him her priority. He felt seen and desired by her. I was confused, because even with life coming between us, he was always my love, and I made sure he knew that every day. Still, it wasn't enough. I read thousands upon thousands of messages between them, and I started being everything he fantasized about. In the beginning, it felt weird, and he was confused, but I just went on. Every time he made plans with her, I found a way to make him stay, or I made sure that I sent him exhausted to her. The messages became less and less frequent, and the passion and excitement subsided. Soon answering her became more of a chore. The complaints began, and I could feel him pulling away from her. He seemed lighter, more at ease at home, like he couldn't wait to be back. He started messaging me again during the day, sending the sweetest words about how much he missed me. It was like the man I fell in love with had returned. One day, what I had been quietly hoping and waiting for finally happened. He ended things with her. He told her that he loved me, and that now everything was great again. Her services weren't needed. In other words, I felt relief, and finally I could move on. Now I am preparing for my divorce. He will get the papers the day I leave for my new life in my new apartment. I know I will get a lot of hate for this, because I have neglected my husband and pushed him to seek solace in another woman's arms, when I apparently could have given him what he sought all along. And believe me, I will bear the guilt for the rest of my life. In my defense, I didn't do it intentionally. Our lives had just been altered drastically, and I was trying to navigate this new and exciting existence. I was immersed in this new kind of happiness that I thought I was sharing with him, and I was trying to get to know my new body that I couldn't recognize anymore, a real scary feeling. But he could have come to me with his hurt. He could have talked to me about his suffering. He could have tried to make me understand, but he chose not to. He decided to deceive me, deceive us. He ruined our love, our future, and even our history. Nothing was, is, or will ever be the same again. Story 4. I tried to wreck my friend's marriage to be with his wife. Before I begin, a few disclaimers. This might be the worst thing I've ever done, and I'm not proud of it in the slightest. It happened over a decade ago, and while we're no longer friends, it's not because of what I'm about to share. I had a friend from high school, and a few years after we graduated, he married a very beautiful woman. She was quiet and shy, and as I got to know her better, I began to suspect she might be on the autism spectrum, high functioning, but with many of the characteristic traits. Not long after they got married, my friend, let's call him Nabu, started cheating on her. I never really understood why. He always said he was satisfied with her in bed. She was incredibly accommodating and willing to meet his desires whenever he wanted. But as he put it, he constantly craved something different, and he had a knack for finding it. As a young male friend, I was always fascinated by his stories and the wild adventures he'd get himself into. You could say I lived vicariously through him, though I never had the desire to live his lifestyle myself. Still, the situations he found himself in were so intriguing, like reading a thrilling, unpredictable novel. Over time, I started feeling really sorry for his wife. She seemed to believe every ridiculous story he fed her. At the time, I was separated from my own wife, and as it turned out, one's wife worked at the same place I did, though in a different department, so I didn't see her often. But we did have the chance to have lunch together and take walks during breaks. We talked a lot, and I developed a crush on her. She was beautiful, kind, and sweet, almost too innocent at times, but that was part of what made her so appealing. Yes, I wanted her, but she was married to my friend. However, at some point, I guess I convinced myself that it was important for her to know what kind of man her husband truly was. She seemed so unaware. I didn't want to just tell her outright, though. If there was ever a right way to do it, I thought that might be it. I have issues with being involved in an affair, but I thought that if I could help break them up, maybe we could be together. I made the decision to sabotage my friend. The first opportunity came when Whiff planned a trip to the Caribbean with his then-current side girlfriend. His excuse to his wife was that he needed a solo biker road trip for a week, completely cut off from everyone, just cruising down side highways. Of course, she believed it. So I took matters into my own hands. I found several Caribbean vacation websites and filled out their contact forms with both his and his girlfriend's names, along with his address. Sure enough, not long after his return, he and his wife started receiving vacation brochures addressed to both Bolu and his girlfriend, detailing various Caribbean trips. I'll never forget the panic in his voice when he called me. He eventually explained it away to his wife as someone from work playing a bad joke on him, and bizarrely, she bought it. It was a strange coincidence, except for the reality of his relationship with her. Next, I faked a letter from one of his ex-girlfriends, claiming to know about his current affair and revealing details of their relationship, including the name of his new side girlfriend. My friend, predictably, freaked out and vented to me about the mess he was in, but somehow he managed to convince his wife that the ex-girlfriend was just crazy and obsessed with him. He told her the ex was lying, that nothing had ever happened between them, and she was just trying to sabotage his marriage. In the end, he told me she actually believed him. Naturally, I needed more concrete proof of his infidelity. And as luck would have it, it came to me. One day, one shared a series of explicit photos he had taken of his current side girlfriend. Most were just half bare or full bare, but the most incriminating one was a mid-distance shot of her giving him a blowy. The photo clearly revealed both of their identities, and it appeared to have been taken using the camera's timer feature. Waite prided himself on being security conscious, keeping the explicit photos locked away in a cabinet in his office with the key hidden. He thought he was clever about where he hid it, but I had seen him do it. We often met at his house for lunch, and one day I arrived early and let myself in using another spare key I knew about. I went straight to his office, retrieved the hidden key, opened the cabinet, and took the photos. I locked everything back up and then slipped the pictures between the two mattresses in his and his wife's bed before sneaking out just in time for him to arrive. It took longer than I expected for her to find them, but eventually, she did. The fallout was chaotic, but as many of you might guess, he managed to talk his way out of it. He pulled out the usual excuses. It was in the past, you weren't meeting my needs, and it was just one time along with all the other cliches we're familiar with. On the other side of things, our walks and talks continued, and something seemed to shift after the last incident. She became more open and affectionate, and we started getting really touchy-feely. Our conversations grew more personal, touching on a range of topics, including past experiences and preferences. At one point, she confessed that she had known about one cheating on her multiple times. She admitted that while she had once doubted his faithfulness, she had finally come to terms with the truth about his behavior. And then a moment came when we were alone in a room and were face to face. She gave me every sign I could kiss her, and I didn't. Despite what I had done, the true evilness of it, I couldn't pull the trigger on cheating with her. I know this is so stupid in many ways. They are still together, though she had an affair with a guy from her church which discovered, and I lived vicariously through his stalking and eventual confrontation with the guy. He actually went to the guy's house, sat him down in front of his wife and teenager, and told them about the affair. I barely see them anymore. My ex-friend does not know what I did. Some part of me is still interested in hooking up with her, but it's a small fantasy. I guess I didn't want to earn someone that way. Who the hell knows? I'm single. I wouldn't be cheating. But she would. I'm mental, I know. Story 5. While I was in college, I became friends with a girl I met through another friend. We had a lot in common and quickly formed a close bond. However, as time went on, I realized that she had deeper feelings for me than just friendship. I wasn't interested in pursuing a romantic relationship with her, but I did notice that she seemed to have a strong desire to please those around her. I began to wonder how much influence I could have on her and pushed the boundaries of our friendship to see how she would respond. At first, I would ask her to pay for my food when we went out. It started off with fast food, and then it got more expensive as it went along. She didn't mind because she thought we were dating. It progressed to an intimate level one night after she paid for all my drinks at the bar. I was clearly heavily intoxicated and somewhat resistant to her advances, but eventually she dragged me into her bedroom and gave me a blowy, and then it led to us doing it. I don't know if I was technically SA'd or not, since after it started, I just went with it. I think this changed the dynamic of the friendship, though since after that I began to treat her badly. I would show up at her apartment and demanded blowies, which she would happily oblige, and I would take her money instead of having her pay for my food. I would just take her leftover money directly and spend it on myself. She was basically working only to make money for me. I would sabotage any relationship she would try to have with other men because I would demand her to submit to me completely. I would try whatever I saw online with her because she simply wouldn't have the ability to say no to anything I wanted from her. I dominated almost every aspect of her life except her job and ability to pay bills. When she wasn't working outside, she was working for me. This might sound wonderful to some people, and I admit that it sort of was. I loved the power I had over her. It was so exciting to basically on command have someone show up to your place and have no strings banging. After I graduated college, I felt guilty about what I did. I realized that my treatment of her wasn't right. I took advantage of her because of her self-esteem issues and because I knew that I could get whatever I wanted from her. I don't know how I ever did this to another human being, but I'm sorry. Story 6. My girlfriend ruined my life, so I'm banging all of her friends. This is all on me, and I fully recognize that. It all started back when I was an awkward, nerdy 15, 16-year-old, and by the time I was 21, I'd transformed into someone women would actually approach. Throw in some drama with an ex-girlfriend around age 17 and some lingering abandonment issues, and that's where things started to take shape. Combine that with my narcissistic traits, and you've got the reason for everything that's happened. I knew it would happen, but I thought I could avoid it. I was the hippie, and she was the prep. We influenced each other in ways that I found meaningful during our time together. I moved across the country for a girl last July. We drove over 2,000 miles to a different state. Well, I did the driving since she can't. We had been together for a year and a half, and she wanted to go to school far from home. But the only thing holding her back was me. Since I'm not in school, I decided to relocate for her. This is the girl I supported through everything. She was the one who had been through a lot. It didn't matter to me when I learned she had tried to take her life before, or that she might have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder if it weren't for her culture. By then it was too late, and I loved her, so none of that changed how I felt. At one point I truly loved her, and even though we're different in many ways, we were always connected on a deeper level. I have my own issues, mostly physical health problems, except for my anxiety. We moved to a new city, and while it had its highs, it was also incredibly tough at times. I struggled for a while to find a job that could cover my bills. This was my first time living on my own, and I had no idea what I was doing. My parents weren't offering any help. I ended up living about 5 minutes from the projects, the only white guy in the neighborhood for probably a square mile. It was rough at first, but eventually I was accepted since I had grown up in a similar environment. She hated it though. She became depressed and started gaining weight. And eventually she didn't want to come over anymore because this preppy girl from Connecticut was afraid of black people. Meanwhile, she didn't have a job at all while I was working 60-hour weeks. But it was all right. I figured school could be just as tough as working those hours. Everything shifted because of her roommate, Ashley. How can I describe Ashley? Think back to being a teenager and imagining the perfect person for you, someone who in your mind was idealized and almost too good to be real. That's how Ashley was. She wasn't perfect, but she was close enough on the surface, a 10 tenths body, an 11 tenths figure, 8 tenths in other areas, and one of the prettiest faces and eyes you could ever imagine. But it wasn't just her looks, it was her personality that stood out. She was another free-spirited hippie in a city and college full of preppy types. To keep it short, my girlfriend moved into a new dorm in December because she was convinced Ashley was hitting on me and that I wasn't doing anything about it. Honestly, there might have been some truth to that. Over the course of probably 20 times we all hung out, Ashley did make a few subtle jabs at my girlfriend, but they were pretty light. I'm a laid-back guy, so I didn't think much of it. Either Ashley was playing the long game, or my girlfriend was just really insecure. You can decide for yourself, but the worst things Ashley did were called me by the name of a guy she was friends with, benefits with multiple times, offered me a cigarette during an argument I had with my girlfriend. When my girlfriend mentioned she doesn't get furious, Ashley replied, "Well, what if I slept with Mystery Man?" If this all happened in the span of a week or a month, maybe I'd understand. But no, this went down over the course of an entire semester. I admit it, there were moments when Ashley and I would catch each other's eye. The way she looked at me sometimes, I couldn't tell if it was just my own attraction or if she felt the same way. Either way, I never said or did anything inappropriate. I'm a loyal boyfriend, I've never cheated, and I never will. I've never even had the urge. If things weren't working, I'd rather just end the relationship than betray it. A couple of months later, on February 20th, my girlfriend was upset with me because I didn't do enough for Valentine's Day. I had just been forced to quit my part-time job because I got a promotion at my full-time job. It was great news, but I hadn't received my first paycheck yet. I had to choose between paying my bills or splurging an extra $75. Even so, I still spent over $200. She did absolutely nothing, but she said it was more about the girl than the celebration. Then, on March 1st, she broke up with me. She said she wanted all her stuff back. I wanted to work things out. Where did this come from? Things had been good, but the issue of me not having the money to take her out due to bills or my car being towed by the apartment complex had caused tension. She doesn't contribute financially and doesn't understand responsibility. I grew up having to handle everything on my own without her. A week went by, and I gave her some space. I love this girl, and I thought we could work through things by communicating better and understanding each other's situation. She was uncertain about what she wanted. Then on Sunday, she agreed to see me, and we made love like we used to. It felt perfect. The next day, I'm driving home when I get a call from my girlfriend, Ixo. She's crying uncontrollably, and all she can get out is, "You messaged Ashley?" "Yes, I did." I was trying to return some of Ashley's things that had been at my place for months after my girlfriend had taken them. It seemed like the right thing to do. My girlfriend had hacked my Facebook and email after I left, which is how she found out. The following night, she slept with a 28-year-old guy from her work, someone she'd been talking to for a few weeks. As I later found out, she blocked me on everything because of the misunderstanding. Before I knew it, they were exclusive. A few weeks later, they were in love. And for all of you out there shaking your heads, sipping your morning coffee, thinking this kid is dumb, yeah, I know. I should have ended things months ago before I even figured out where my boundaries were as a man. But now I've learned, it's been a tough lesson. Anyways, point of the story, after around 8 weeks, I reached out to Ashley. I've been seeing her, along with a few other friends of my ex. They're all more attractive than I ever set my standards to, and they don't get along with my ex because of the things she said about them. My ex doesn't know yet. She called me last night to apologize, but got upset when I told her that while I'm fine now, I still don't forgive her. She asked if I was seeing anyone, and I mentioned a girl from her school she didn't know. That made her even more upset. Maybe we deserve each other being so dysfunctional. I don't care though. I've been getting the best banging of my life, and the awkward chubby nerdy guy inside of me can't believe it. I hope this all blows up. I hope I get to see the disillusioned life she has constructed in her head, where she is a nice person, fall apart because people simply don't like her. Since I started seeing Ashley, I've also been involved with some of her other friends, who I suspected might be interested. Not surprisingly, none of them are loyal to the girl who spread all their drama, chlamydia rumors, and personal business. I know it's wrong on some level, that I'm not being a bigger man by letting it go. I also know that it's a lot less work to get with someone who you have history with, and revenge blowies feel a lot better for some reason. I've always been the kind to take revenge, actually. Story 7. I rubbed my buns on all of the food at the restaurant I work at. Lately, I've hit my limit with the constant disrespect I get from just about everyone in my life. It feels like no one gives me even a fraction of the respect I consistently try to show others. It's like I don't even register as long as everyone else is comfortable. I'm just expected to deal with being ignored or dismissed. I'm exhausted from constantly having my own needs and wants pushed aside, while I'm left bending over backwards to accommodate everyone else. Every single day I face disrespect, whether it's from my boss, my coworkers, my family, people who claim to be friends, even random strangers on the road. No matter how much I do, how much I give, it's like none of it matters. No one seems to show me the basic respect I deserve, and I'm just done pretending that's okay. I'm not sure why, but a few days ago, everything just hit me harder than usual. I work at a Dunkin' Donuts in Milwaukee, and honestly, my boss is a nightmare. She's constantly on my case for no real reason. That day I showed up only 11 minutes late, mopped the whole damn floor like I was supposed to. But she still wouldn't let up. She kept going on about how I'm not locked in and got on my case about vaping. Then she actually took my vape. And yeah, I've got a nicotine addiction, so that just made things worse. The woman drives me insane. And yeah, full disclosure, there was a time I rizzed her up and hate banged her, but that's not even the point right now. What really set me off that day was everything going on at home. My wife keeps seeing this guy, and it's painfully obvious they're sleeping together. They don't even try to hide it anymore. But instead of just being honest with me, she lies, like I'm too stupid to see what's going on. At this point, I'd have more respect for her if she just told me straight up that she's screwing around. At least then I could be honest about what I've been doing too. Like the time with my boss, but she won't even give me that courtesy. And to add on top of that, my boss wouldn't let me go on break. I told her that's illegal, but she said, "You already took your break being late earlier," or some stupid crap like that. I probably could have had a case against her, but I'm not paying for a lawyer. Instead, while everyone was on break, while no one was looking, I took various food items such as donuts, bagels, and hash browns, and I rubbed them between my other cheeks. I usually take showers every 3 or so days, and I was on my third day. I tried to rub it on all the food items there, and I'm pretty sure I did. I put a bunch of ice cubes between my cheeks and put them in the coffee and cream machines, as well as all the other beverage stations. I think all the beverage stations were completely tainted. I then found a better way to rub more food by getting up on one of the tables and scooting my buns across the entire surface of the table. I then took a lot of food and just rubbed it on the table. I just wiped my buns on. Unfortunately, I couldn't really do much with the bottled beverages because that would require opening them, which would make it too obvious. After I was done, I carefully put everything back where it belonged and tried to clean up as much as I could before everyone returned. When they came back, my boss seemed mildly annoyed that I hadn't gotten more cleaning done, but she still acknowledged the little bit I managed. Not that it mattered to me. Any appreciation from her at that point felt way too little, way too late. And then the rest of the day just went normally. Things were sold, stuff was probably consumed. Complaints were thankfully non-existent from what I was able to observe. Fast forward to the end of the shift. What my coworkers like to do is eat some of the leftover food we haven't sold before it gets thrown away. This was my favorite part of the day because all those people suck, and I wiped my buns on the food they were eating. I was especially happy when I watched my boss take a large bite from a piece of avocado toast I practically shoved halfway up my A. Only heard a few comments about how it tasted a bit different, but those gluttonous jerk didn't seem to care. I don't even feel bad about this. I'm just here to brag about it. Story 8. A couple of years ago, I was deeply involved with drugs, and my friends and I would stay up all night talking in my apartment for days on end. Most people who have been heavily into drugs know that activities like playing video games or watching movies aren't as enjoyable when you're up all night. So we started doing some strange things instead. One night, for reasons I can't remember, we decided to mess with a guy we went to school with who had developed a serious psychosis after a car crash while on ecstasy. He now believed he was dead and would post bizarre rants on Facebook, claiming he was talking to angels and demons. We ended up calling him, pretending to be a local newspaper wanting to write an article about his story. He carried on with the conversation for almost 2 hours, while I recorded the whole thing as an MP3 on my phone. The next day, I shared the recording with all my friends, and they were thrilled. We all thought it was the funniest thing we'd ever heard. After that, we started messing with the guy almost every night after work, writing to him as if we were God, making him record strange songs from heaven and hell, getting him to take odd photos of himself and more. But after about a week of this, his caretaker or whoever looks after him made him delete his Facebook account because his rants were getting out of hand. After realizing that messing with this guy was hilarious, but no longer an option, we started looking for new targets. First, we trolled our local high school's Facebook group, pretending to be a pair of messed up parents, but we got caught and kicked out. Next, we moved on to trolling a local vegan group, claiming to sell horse meat and other stuff, but they made the group private, only allowing people they personally knew to join. After that, we started trolling all sorts of local groups on Facebook. To join these local groups, we needed accounts that looked credible, so we'd go onto religious forums and post praise for God, which tends to get a lot of attention. We'd keep adding people until the account seemed more legitimate. Most of the people active on these religious boards were from very poor areas in Africa, and many of them were willing to do anything for a few bucks. So we started contacting random strangers who seemed open to doing anything for money, sending them a bit of cash via Western Union, and asking them to try doing backflips while I recorded it. The crazy thing is, once you send that first dollar, they start to believe there's more where it came from, and before you know it, you've got your own personal performer overseas. They'll do practically anything as long as you send them that first bit of cash. It quickly became like an addiction for me. I'd promise these people a big cash prize, though there was never any prize if they did whatever I asked them to do on webcam, so I could record it. The messed up part is, I actually enjoyed it and found it hilarious. At first, I only did it with friends so we could all laugh together, but eventually I started doing it alone, calling or messaging these people, and making them do strange and degrading things on webcam. Story 9. I've been having revenge affairs for the past year and don't intend to stop. My girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years now. About a year and a half ago, I found out she had been having an emotional affair with a guy at work, someone she told me not to worry about. I've sacrificed a lot for this relationship. 3 years ago, I left my sales job to go back to university and pursue an engineering degree, hoping to secure a better future for us. My parents offered to let me live with them, but my girlfriend wasn't welcome due to religious reasons. She had no one, so I turned down their offer. I sold my entire crypto portfolio, which would have been worth 6 figures by now, just to cover everything. I worked my bum off while in school, taking on a part-time job to support us when she couldn't work due to her health. After discovering the emotional affair, I became numb. I didn't want to argue or yell. I just wanted to hurt her back in the worst way possible. I wanted to waste her time and take advantage of her best years while leading her on. I downloaded Hinge and started meeting other women, pretending I was healing from her betrayal and working on our relationship. I slept with 2 women and told her about it, using the pain of her emotional affair as an excuse to justify my actions. 4 months later, I slept with another woman and got caught. By then, she seemed ready to give up on the relationship, so I began saying everything she wanted to hear. I dangled the idea of marriage and starting a family in front of her, knowing she had never really had a family of her own. I'm nearly done with my degree and told her that I'd get her an engagement ring with my first paycheck after graduating. However, I've been talking to a girl from school and intend to go through with it. I want to drag this out for as long as possible. I'll even get her the engagement ring if it means getting to toy with her for longer. I will lie, manipulate, and gaslight her into thinking that I really want this relationship to work and that we can make it through any obstacle while shagging everything in sight. She knew when we started dating that I had broken up with my ex over infidelity, yet she turned around and did the exact same thing. I want her to suffer the same way I suffered. I want to mentally screw her so badly that she never trusts any man ever again. Screw her. Story 10. I joined a gang and went on a robbery spree and got away with it. Summertime when I was 18 was crazy. I don't even know where my head was at. I had a lot going on, and after finding out my girlfriend was cheating on me, I completely lost it for a few months. I felt like no one respected me, and like anyone could mess with me. I was completely lost, so I quit college, and everything just spiraled into a pretty serious depression. My friends ended up taking her into our group, and I was left with no one. I ended up being taken in by a group that wasn't exactly the friendliest. They must have seen something in me. I lived in a high-crime area, and these people were serious gang members around my age, with a history of committing serious crimes and earning a strong reputation for it. They had my back when no one else did. One time, when 5 guys tried to pick a fight with me for no reason, they showed up and scared them off, knowing the power of their reputation. Naturally, I got drawn into their activities, which mostly revolved around drinking, doing drugs all day, and chasing after girls. And of course, we weren't interested in spending any legit money for the good times. It started with street muggings. Nothing violent at first. We'd find some stoner-looking guys, pull up on them with a knife, and tell them to empty their pockets. For anyone who's never robbed before, it's not like what you see in movies. No one ever argues or tries to run. They always hand over what you ask for, and as far as I know, most don't report it to the cops. There was one time we crashed a house party and started stealing alcohol and phones, but we got recognized by a friend of one of the guys we had robbed at knife point, which led to some drama. We went up to the bathroom with a girl, and were getting pretty turned up when someone barged in, mad that we were with her. That guy ended up paying the price, getting punched and kicked by a few of us. Then a knife was pulled, and everyone scattered as the party got shut down by the homeowners. We all took off with the girl after some arguing outside. To make things worse, someone in the group stole the girl's phone and tried to sell it back to her. She was really upset about losing it, and I felt bad about that. We needed alcohol and cigarettes, so I drove up to a convenience store, and my friend went inside. Next thing I knew, the panic button was hit, and he jumped over the counter, looting the place for everything he could grab while I waited outside. On top of that, we were getting messages from people about the locations of illegal weed farms and imported cigarettes. We weren't scared to check out whether the drops were real, so we'd show up with masks, iron bars, and whatever we needed to raid wherever we could make quick cash. We targeted what we called illegal people. The group also got into drug dealing, but not in the usual way. We weren't the type to just buy a pack and flip it. No, we'd only sell drugs we took from other dealers. We set up deals by pressuring weaker drug users into arranging transactions and then showing up at their spots to take what we could. Eventually, every member of the group ended up in jail. There was constant talk about us on social media and in the news, and they managed to track down almost all of us, except me. Despite all the witnesses and evidence against us, I never faced any consequences for our actions. Since I was the last one standing, I decided it was time to stop pushing my luck and start looking for a career. Fast forward 3 years, and now I have a new girlfriend, a job that pays $50K a year with a pension. I never thought I'd get this far, but those bad experiences taught me a lot. Honestly, I believe they made me a better and much wiser person. The only thing that still weighs on me is the guilt of the innocent people who suffered because of what we did. I'm sure they haven't forgotten, but I hope they understand that I'm a different person now. As wrong as everything was, I just went off the rails for a while, but I eventually got myself together. I'm not sure what the others are doing now. I think they're all out of prison. One of them got into serious trouble, but he's still free and living a calm life. One disappeared completely, and I think he may have turned to crack. I doubt I'll ever see him again. Another had an attempt on his life, but survived. I think he's laying low, and he might even be wanted by the police as I write this. None of it was worth it. I'm genuinely lucky I didn't get locked up. The stress of constantly wondering if I'd get caught, with so many witnesses and cameras around, was unbearable. I can't help but think I was given a second chance, and I made the most of it. Stay legit, people. It's the best way. Story 11. I'm a male cash-only companion. No one in my family knows. Really debated posting this, due to some of the other posts on here. My family thinks I fix computers for a living. I got a job at a law firm when I was 18. Just got out of a long-term relationship and was single in the real world with my first real job. Me and a female coworker really hit it off. She was 28 and wanted our office romance to be a secret. So we dated for almost a year until I broke it off. I found out she was married and immediately put a stop to it. She took it extremely hard and quit her job a few days later. The following day, Mary from HR called me into her office and gave me a written warning, told me she knew about the office romance and was disgusted when she found out. I had never had a real job before, so having her rail on me didn't seem out of the ordinary. About a week later, she apologized and wanted to take me to lunch. Mary was in her early 40s. I didn't think anything of it. Again and again, for a few months, she would offer to buy me lunch or take me out to lunch. We had an underground parking garage, and one day as we got into her car without notice, as I'm about to reach back for my seatbelt, she leans over, hits the seat recline, and starts giving me a blowy. I hesitated at first, but I'll admit I was a pretty excited guy at the time. As time progressed, we hooked up, but there was nothing romantic or even emotional about the relationship. She would buy me food and electronics. One time she called me down to her office, locked the door, which was a code for get ready to pound me, and so I did. She opened a drawer, handed me an iPhone, and unlocked the door so I could leave. Pretty standard stuff. Then about 2 years into, things really went south. It was Friday night, and I was just at home when I got a call from a coworker. She was a bit older but still attractive. She mentioned that Mary had arranged for me to come over and fix her computer. Unsure of what to say, I agreed and headed over, especially since my family thinks I run a computer repair business. When I arrived, she was sipping wine and wearing a robe. She offered me a drink and made some small talk. I asked her where the computer was, and she said it was in her bedroom. As soon as I entered, she turned around and dropped her robe. I hesitated, but she was pretty persistent. After a few minutes, I tried to say I needed to leave, but she insisted that Mary from HR would be upset if I didn't fix the computer. I didn't really know what to say, so I had a glass of wine and just went along with it. As I was leaving, she handed me an envelope with a few $100s inside. That Monday morning, Mary called me into her office and gave me more cash. She said as long as I kept quiet, the money would keep coming. Over the next few years, Mary set me up on dates with older women who were looking for some company. Then a couple of years ago, Mary vanished. Her phone was disconnected and her office was completely cleared out. I wasn't working at the law firm anymore, but I kept stopping by to collect the money. Fortunately, I had access to all the contacts, and I still do even now. All of my clients come through word-of-mouth referrals, no ads, no online profiles. Each visit is different. Sometimes I just stop by, we bang, and I head out. Other times, I'll spend hours watching Netflix and cuddling with a lonely older woman who just wants some company. I've had a few odd experiences here and there, but overall, it's been surprisingly positive. On average, I make anywhere between $1,500 and $6,000 a month, not including the gifts some clients give me. I keep things quiet. No flashy clothes, no showing off money. I blend in. I've got an average build, nothing that stands out. Honestly, I probably look more like someone who fixes computers than anything else. Story 12. I want to preface this by saying I support sex work and want it to be decriminalized. This isn't some kind of scared straight post. I've been involved in various aspects of the porno industry since I was 18, primarily for financial reasons. The income has had a significant impact on my life, helping me change and save in ways I never imagined, and through the experience I've learned a lot about myself. However, I've always desired a strong, committed relationship. I see myself as a good partner. I'm a great communicator, thoughtful and sweet. With my own life and interests, I'm incredibly loyal. And when I'm invested in someone, I'm their biggest supporter. I want to learn about what my person is interested in and hear their stories. I'm adaptable and can roll with a lot of stuff. I volunteer and try to be of service to others. I make perfect cookies. I have great style and I'm always up for weird adventures. I value who I'm with more than where I am or what I'm doing. The little things aren't little to me because I know fancy stuff doesn't mean crap if it's not with a genuine person. From the outside, though, I'm not wife material. I'm dirty, my body count is too high. It'd be embarrassing if anyone found out. I don't seem like the type, so it's shocking and upsetting. My morals are trash, my values are bad, I'm broken. And for some reason, I guess that's a surprise. I bought into the idea that there's kind, fun people also looking for a committed monogamous partnership who could see past it, or could see it as just a job I had with positives and negatives just like any other work. Most everyone I've dated hasn't cared, but then again, they haven't really cared about anything having to do with me. They've mostly wanted me to act like a girlfriend when it's convenient and stay out of the way when it's not and see me as disposable, except for when they need me to pay for things. The only two people who've offered to be my boyfriend were abusive. The only person who's ever missed me also liked to steal from me and threatened to harm my pet. Someone really special, who seemed to actually like me, left me last year after I told him. He's kind and interesting and intelligent and gentle and fun and so cute that he made my knees weak. I couldn't believe someone like him wanted to be with me. He did what I guess a lot of people would do, said it was fine in the moment, had intimate relations with me one more time, and then slow faded out. He was so disgusted by me that he wouldn't even speak to me. Everything had to be text. I'd thought we were moving toward exclusivity and commitment and seeing what was possible. Instead, all our plans were out the window. The growing connection that had made me open up in the first place didn't matter. I was basically out of the industry at that point anyway, so a few months later I quit completely, thinking maybe it had saved me from going through that again. But reading post after post where C's work, past or present, is the ultimate deal breaker has made me realize that I built a life where a loving partnership won't be possible. Someone on a recent thread said something about worker girls being lonely because no one wants us, and it's true. I'm lonely all the time, and knowing it's just going to be decades of more loneliness makes life seem pointless. I don't want a solo life, or a life where I only exist to work my straight job or exist to go back to work and make more money, because quitting seems pointless now, but money feels really empty without someone to share experiences with. The messed up part is that since I've quit, former clients have reached out asking if I'm coming back, talking about memories they have of our time together, saying how I impacted their life, sending me gifts for no reason. They say they miss me. I would chew glass for some of the people I've dated to feel that way. And I know I can't change the hypocrisy of the world, but it just compounds the hurt. I hate that people who've been to clubs and consumed corn aren't devalued like we are. The person who thought I wasn't even worth a breakup conversation, and who didn't give any craps that he'll never see me again, had a very active of habit, and I'm pretty sure has been to a sensual massage provider or two. But that's just reality. The double standard will never change. We all make our choices, and if I'd realized I was signing myself up for a pointless, empty, hopeless life, I would have made different ones. I wake up every day knowing I'm always going to be alone, and that I'll never be good enough to be worth holding on to, and it's 100% my fault. Financial security isn't worth a loveless life, and a loveless life isn't worth living. Edit. To clarify, I've had another job for years. I was slowly leaving the industry and have been out for almost a year. I would never lie to a partner about my past. Someone doesn't deserve to be lied to just so I can have what I want. That kind of thing can cause long-term damage to their ability to trust. The dating part of my life is done, because I'm quite aware that I'm not keeper material. There is no finding my person because they don't exist, and after January or hopefully sooner, I also won't be here. I've been in therapy for years. Therapy doesn't fix everything. I appreciate the people who've acknowledged that I'm right about no one wanting me. Reality is a lot more helpful than feel-good untruths. This post was meant as a vent grieving what I'll never have and words of caution for people looking for a relationship, who are curious about the work or just starting out. Story 13. I stole my best buddy's girlfriend and I profited from it in every way. About 1.5 years ago, I realized that I was connecting really well with my best friend's girlfriend, so we ended up becoming close friends. She supported me through my high school finals, while I helped her work through issues in her relationship with my best friend. Eventually, I developed feelings for her, and I later realized she felt the same way. At that point, I suggested we take some distance, but she didn't think it was necessary and kept insisting on hanging out. I don't blame her for my mistakes. I know I should have had the strength to cut contact myself. Around New Year's Eve, we ended up at the same party. My best friend wasn't there, and we both got drunk. I can't quite remember how it happened, but somehow we ended up falling asleep, cuddling on the couch. Nothing more than that occurred, though. The next day, I immediately scheduled a time to talk to my best friend and tell him what happened. However, he messaged me saying he couldn't meet because his girlfriend wanted to talk about something important. I was already anxious, but I thought at least he'd know what had happened. I was left shattered. I knew I deserved it, and I knew I had to come clean to my best friend, but she kept insisting we keep it a secret, that it never happened. At my lowest point in years, I listened to her, and for another 2 months I couldn't summon the courage to tell him. Eventually, I found whatever strength I had left and finally confessed. He lost it, beat me up, which, looking back, I fully deserved, and told all of our mutual friends what an awful person I was. He immediately forgave her and took her back, placing all the blame on me. My friend group turned their backs on me and effectively made me an outcast, leaving me completely alone. Now, here's the most messed up part. At the time, all my friends were smoking weed daily and popping painkillers every weekend, and I was right there with them. My life was in a mess. I was half addicted, and my outlook on life was completely bleak. But the pain from the breakup and losing all my friends pushed me to a breaking point, and it finally forced me to get my act together. I stopped taking drugs and went through a brutal withdrawal. Since then, I've completely turned my life around. I've started running regularly, eating healthier, and I'm now studying engineering at university. I focused on improving myself and became a better person. Life tested me again last summer, putting me in a similar situation with a new friend group, but this time I made the right choice and stood up to the girl. Meanwhile, all my old best friends are still struggling with addiction and stuck in minimum wage jobs. My ex-best friend and my ex-girlfriend split up just 4 months after getting back together. Now she's with some entitled rich kid, and he had to move back in with his parents after losing his job. I can't help but feel some satisfaction that things turned out the way they did, even though it feels like I built my success at the expense of others. I know I'd probably be in the same place they are if all of this hadn't happened, and I feel guilty because I was the a-hole but still came out on top. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.